Hello, hello, good morning. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us. I'm Allison Yee. I'm the founder and CEO of Up Next, the company that is putting together this cohort. And I am joined by Rachel McPherson, our COO, and by Natalie, who is staying behind the scenes running tech. We would actually love to start by having everyone just very briefly introduce themselves. Part of the benefit of a cohort style program is getting to know one another and helping be soundboards. So if you're comfortable and want to come off camera, that would be great. And we can just go right around the room, or on camera rather, right around the room. Just a couple of quick notes. We are recording this and it will be shared back with everyone who joined us, as well as a few who couldn't make it. And we have our first session presentation for all of you, and then we'll do an interactive Q&A and conversation on the back end. So Julia, you're first on my screen if you'd like to unmute.
Hi, everyone. My name is Julia Gillis. I work for the town of Cohasset, and I'm the assistant town planner. And we're really interested in learning more about potential having mobile pop-up workshops or spaces in town. So that's something we're interested in learning about.
Wonderful, thank you. And the next person on my screen, it says Kay Joseph.
Yeah, hi, I'm Karen Joseph from the Situate Town Planner, and we have a lot of vacant storefronts in the harbor. So I was just trying to learn a little bit about, how possibly to proceed.
Wonderful, thanks for being here. And Kevin.
My name is Kevin Cogan. I'm the deputy town planner in Abington, and we are doing the one-stop program with the Massachusetts Downtown Initiative with a consultant, and we're looking to revitalize our center, downtown center, and we're just trying to learn a little bit more here, a little bit more informative.
Excellent, thank you. Elizabeth?
Hi, I'm Liz Shea. I'm the town planner in Abington, and echo what Kevin said, plus we're doing a lot of community engagement with MVP, so we're kind of looking for alternate ways to engage our residents in projects we'd like to do.
Great. Thank you. Brian?
Good morning. I'm Ryan Egan. I'm the Economic Development Manager in the town of Braintree. Previously worked for the city of Marlborough, where we actually did do the Economic Development Corporation did do a pop-up program with some sheds in the downtown, which led to a few businesses filling vacant stores in the main street downtown. So definitely see the value, and we're looking to do something similar with the small business incubator that'll have a pop-up here in downtown Braintree. So definitely looking forward to how we can build on that through this.
Great, thank you so much. Allison, fellow Allison.
Hi, Allison. Allison Quinn here. I'm the town planner for the town of Rockland. We're super interested in understanding a little bit more of how pop-ups work. Not unlike everyone else, we're trying to reimagine our town hall plaza and how to best support and entice small business growth in our little downtown community. And we've been talking about pop-ups for quite some time, but have actually taken no action because we don't know how to. So that having been said, we also have a bunch of grants in our pipeline that would support this type of opportunity. So excited to hear more about it.
Wonderful, thank you. And Art?
Sure, good morning. I'm Art Robert. I'm the Assistant Town Administrator for Operations in Hingham. We're eager to figure out how a pop-up retail kind of site can support our Hingham Square area. We've done a lot of planning with regard to the harbor. We have some persistent vacancies. We're working closely with our downtown association. Amy Brown will speak a lot more to that. And we're wrapping up an economic development strategic plan that really points to an early focus on different ways to drive foot traffic into our square area. So we think that this is immediately relevant. Thank you.
Excellent, thanks. And Amy, if you're able to come on, you're last but not least. She may have had to step away. We'll come back to you later. So if you have questions, we will definitely have time at the end, but if you have something top of mind, feel free to drop it in the chat so you don't forget it. Rachel will be moderating the chat.
I have a really bad connection.
Oh, no. Okay. You'll get the recording, Amy, if you miss anything, not to worry. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share screen and get into our presentation. And we've designed this so that it's not overwhelming. It's 4 sessions with office hours interspersed. And there's a lot to know, but the goal is really to get you all comfortable with this idea, excited about the possibilities, and have the tools in your toolbox to really be able to bring this to life. Can everyone see my screen? Great. Okay. So just a little bit of context for you on who we are. So Project Pop-Up, you may be familiar with that name. It's powered by UpNext. I founded this company 7 years ago, back in 2018, on a mission to make testing retail more accessible for lots of emerging brands and entrepreneurs, and to give tools for placemaking and economic development became part of our mission when the pandemic hit in 2020, 2021, and has really become core to what we do at UpNext. And so we do retail strategy, we do activation and consulting, and we're experts in the short-term retail strategy and execution space, meaning anything that is in the realm of a pop-up, a market, an incubator space is right up our alley. And we are a local Newton-based company with lots of team members dispersed who can help bring these things to life, but also, as I mentioned, give you the tools to move them forward. We are focused on revitalizing commercial districts through pop-up activations, as we have seen proof of concept for this many times over through Project Pop-Up and the impact of our pop-ups and activations outside of that realm as well. And so we work closely with municipalities, with developers and landlords, and with brand founders and entrepreneurs across Massachusetts and beyond. We're going to share a few examples here. So UpNext Matchmaking is how we connect independent brands with short-term retail opportunities. So that's under the UpNext umbrella. We are always helping to cultivate opportunities to help those with property and vacancy see the possibility and how they can activate those both short and long term and incubate entrepreneurs to succeed or activate and enliven a space. And then we work closely with developers and municipal contacts to support the activation process and to use this as a leasing strategy, but also marketing, community engagement, just empowering neighborhoods to really think innovatively about their retail landscape. Through Project Pop-Up, we are focused on turnkey programs that bring retail energy to underutilized spaces via these retail incubators. So often we'll have spaces that are a year or longer, and we rotate brands through on a seasonal basis. But as you'll see, you can also implement this on a much shorter term. You can test it in a bite-sized seasonal chunk or 6 weeks or so. And we most recently launched the Retail Playground in an effort to support all of the brands and communities we worked with at the next level by creating a membership-based community where people can talk openly about how they're navigating retail. Founders can connect with one another. We have courses and different resources that just make it so much easier to access all of the information that you need to go about testing retail and bringing these things to life, much like this particular program, which is custom made for all of you. So let's start with the basics. What is a pop-up? how we define it at Up Next is a temporary retail activation, which is open for a limited period of time, typically lasting a few months or a full season, but not more than a year. Once we get into a year plus, you're typically doing a longer format lease and getting into some other permanent leasing structures. Although we do see pop-ups that start as a shorter term and then extend past a year and then potentially evolve into a full-term lease. You are welcome to take notes, by the way, but it is not required, as we will be sending out a robust workbook. So you will have a roadmap to guide you along and lots of tools and reference points here. So let's talk about how pop-ups benefit your downtown. So from the municipality perspective, we are activating vacant storefronts when you have them. So that is not the challenge in every single downtown, but often there are vacant or underutilized storefronts, or perhaps there's quite a few banks or real estate offices or places in your downtown that don't have an active use, and you want to see that invigorated, community-driven destination in your downtown. We are supporting small business growth. We are incubating businesses to do business in your community as an economic development tool, as a way of supporting these entrepreneurs who oftentimes in a permanent lease situation are risking a whole lot to see if it will work. So we are breaking down those barriers and making it more accessible. We are boosting foot traffic and downtown vibrancy. So we are all about finding ways to support the community as a whole. So it's looking at all the different sides of the equation and how we can empower and support each leg of the stool, if you will. And we're creating a pipeline for long-term business tenants. So that's the retail incubation component. That's the test drive, the dating before marriage of retail and permanent long-term growth for businesses in your community. Now, looking at the benefits to small businesses, I'm sure you're already seeing how they're interconnected, but pop-ups provide a low-risk entry point, meaning all of the loans, taking out a second mortgage to sign a lease, risking something before you know if it's the right location, the right demographic or psychographic fit for your brand as a business owner. It's just giving a much more accessible opportunity and allowing entrepreneurs to test their business model before making a long-term commitment to see what works, what doesn't, because there will always be things that need to be tweaked, and what can be refined to move forward. This encourages collaboration. So one of the unique things that we often do with Project Pop-Up is encourage brand founders to share space with one another. So multiple brands under one roof so that they can share a collaborative environment, share staffing, share resources, share costs, all of those things that just de-risk the entire retail model. And it creates visibility and builds relationships. The power of connecting with people in real life is very hard to replicate online. So a lot of times we'll have brands that are starting online or doing markets where they're getting visibility maybe a day a week, a day a month. And this just allows them to build a loyal customer base and also a connection with the community and the people supporting them through government and other channels. And so turning to the community, how does it benefit them? So it enhances the shopping and retail options for residents and visitors. A lot of times pop-ups can fill a void. Maybe there's no local coffee shop. Maybe there's no local gift shop. Maybe there aren't a lot of workshops or art experiences. There's so many different ways that pop-ups can introduce something new to the downtown landscape. We are creating a sense of place and discovery in downtown areas. So whether that's for the people that live there every day or for a tourist population or a combination of the two, it is just adding to your downtown experience. We are introducing the community to small business owners. You know, there are so many reasons that local businesses are struggling in this big box world. However, People love to feel connected to the owner of a business, to understand the story behind it. And so a lot of what we do is encourage that storytelling, to be transparent about the process, to invite people in to experience it right alongside them and rally for them and spread the word. And that just builds so many bridges. So that builds stronger connections between businesses and the community and all of you as municipal leaders, because it really is a group effort, a village, if you will. So we wanted to touch on mobile retail right away because some of you have expressed interest in mobile retail, and knowing that vacancy is not always a challenge in downtowns, or even if it is, maybe the vacancies aren't located in exactly where you want to activate. So this is a flexible solution where you can take these small mobile retail units like the pictures you see along the bottom. We work with a number of different partners who have these really turnkey spaces, and you can bring them virtually anywhere. So a park, a plaza, a transit hub, a grassy patch outside the YMCA. The possibilities are sort of endless because they take up a very small footprint. Typically, they're about 8 by 10, 8 by 12, 1 or 2 parking spaces in size. They often require just one basic power outlet, if that. Some of them are solar powered. They can be really great for seasonal or niche brands. Perhaps you have more of a seasonal community and you want to add retail in those peak months. This is a great way to do that and invite more entrepreneurs to be part of your retail community on a seasonal basis. Great to test locations and audiences for revitalization. So if there's an area that you're thinking of investing in more heavily, not sure if a developer is going to build there, or if you want to take a public space and develop it for further retail or community use, this is a perfect way to test that out and a low risk. So it's low risk for everyone involved. And it also invites the possibility for faster turn and more brand opportunities. This can be treated a little bit like a market in certain cases where you're rotating, say, weekly or bi-weekly, as opposed to monthly, seasonally, a little bit longer term with an inline physical retail brick and mortar space. So here we're walking you through a snapshot of the steps for implementing pop-ups in your municipality. So I'm going to just wind you through this road here. And we will be getting into a lot more detail through our sessions on each of these steps, but it's helpful to have a snapshot of the process from this very beginning point. So typically you are starting by identifying a municipal partnership or a time frame that you want to activate, and then what funding is needed to secure that. So some of you have mentioned you have grant sources or you're navigating what funding might be available. And you can get very scrappy. There are lots of great ways to leverage in-kind resources, but at the end of the day, you typically do need some real budget to get this off and running. And depending on what budget you have available and what time frame it can be utilized, you may choose to go mobile or partner with a landlord or do something that bridges the two so that you can put your funds to best use. So that ties into space scouting, solidifying your location. That comes early on in the process because you need to build a partnership with your location or your landlord or wherever the space will be and start thinking about implementation, and also give visibility to the brands that you're marketing this opportunity to really empower them to have transparent information. Where would the pop-up be? How long is the space available? What will the costs be? So we at Up Next are really big on transparency of information and sort of the antidote to what traditionally the real estate commercial leasing process looks like, where the numbers change a lot. There isn't a lot of information. The pricing is based on use. We really like to level the playing field here and talk about flat rates or keeping things just upfront, accessible. Knowledge is power in this process. So after the location is solidified, occasionally we go out of this order, but typically we would launch the brand application. So you would have a public-facing application that collects the story of the entrepreneur. What are the goals here? Do you want someone who's based in your municipality? Are you looking for certain types of brands? Are you looking to support a certain population of business owners? There are all different types of criteria that you can vet for through this very first step. And I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised to see how excited entrepreneurs are to share their story, their passion, their goals and objectives through this whole process. And this can be a really empowering part of the process to get you excited about all of the possibilities to come. And then we go through a brand vetting process before extending offers. So you've got your funding, you've got your location, and then you have interested brand founders, and you need to figure out what the right fit is, what makes sense for this first run of your pop-up, and then extend offers. And life happens, things can change along the way. So you want to be prepared to have sort of your first choices, your backup plan, and some really robust conversations. Sometimes in tandem, we are prepping the space and supporting the brands through it. So the goal is to create as turnkey an opportunity as possible. How can this space welcome entrepreneurs that are focused on their retail experience and creating something amazing in that space for your community, for their business to grow and thrive? And so if you can turn over a space that's in really great condition, that's a blank canvas, that perhaps comes with some fixtures, perhaps some stipend support. So that's a big part of the funding formula. What can be done with this space to make it as simple as possible to get up and running? Permitting, of course, comes into play here, but that is actually one of the simpler steps in the process. So then the pop-up season commences. You get to have a celebratory ribbon cutting, invite the community in to experience what you have helped to build, and encourage these entrepreneurs to really go after engaging with the community, putting themselves out there, creating experiences and events in their space. Rinse and repeat. This is something that needs to happen throughout the entire pop-up. It is something that needs to create a sense of place, intrigue, excitement on an ongoing basis. We actually work with long-term retailers in this capacity as well, because the formula can be applied to any retail scenario where people are wanting to drive traffic and energy and engagement and press. And so the cycle just repeats as funding allows, as the brand interest accelerates. And so that is your roadmap, a snapshot of what you will navigate from start to finish, the high level version anyhow. So we wanted to share a few past Project Pop-Up specific activations to give you a visual and a little bit of a sense of what it can spark in a particular municipality. So back in 2021, when we first launched our Project Pop-Up activations, Melrose was one of our very first communities. I believe it was the third to launch. And so it opened in fall of, or not the third storefront, it was probably the 9th and 10th storefront, but the third municipality in Massachusetts that launched Project Pop-Up. And essentially, this allowed two side-by-side storefronts that were in a great location downtown, but were about to be rebuilt by a developer. So they were intentional vacancies, but that doesn't mean that they couldn't be active while they were waiting to go through zoning, permitting, and construction and redevelopment. And so this was a great opportunity to take these side-by-side storefronts that were in decent condition in a great location downtown and to test the retail incubation process. So that was the beginning of many pop-up activations through Project Pop-Up in Melrose. The city really came to rally and support and see immediate traction. And so Melrose has since supported a total of 21 brands between 2021 and our last activation there, which was holiday 2024. And at least two have gone on to have successful permanent locations. One from the very first activation opened to permanent location immediately after, just around the corner in a space that was readily available long-term. And another that tested a location for a full year and incubated other businesses within that space, a collective model, and now has a permanent storefront. These businesses are joining the chamber. They're inviting the community in for events on a very regular basis. They're doing custom products. This is one of the ones that went on to have a permanent home. They do custom Melrose apparel and accessories. And so this has gone from a pilot in 2021 to multiple permanent spaces and introduced the idea of mobile on the YMCA lawn, which is right along Main Street in Melrose, to have these incubator spaces for a 6-week holiday season at a time and rotate 9, 10, 11 brands through each season. And that has come to be a community favorite. So there are all these different ways that a pop-up can look and evolve and support in each community. Turning to Lowell, Massachusetts, this is a location that started with ARPA funding, which is enabling a multi-year activation. So an inline space that is right in an area with lots of vacancy, but also a really central hub. So we opened the very first storefront in the winter season right in time for holiday 2023 with a pairing of 2 brands who did a collective environment. And when I say collective, that means bringing in multiple brands who are sharing the space. Sometimes there are anchor brands, if you will, that are providing staffing and the organization required for quite a few brands to be under one roof. Typically, when we're pairing operators, we're talking about 2, 3, 4 max at a time. But for something like this, which is fairly common and getting more popular, you really do need organizers who have some experience and interest in this model of retail to take charge. So in this case, they were phenomenal at plugging into the community, getting into the artist and maker scene, and inviting other brands and locals to be a part of this experience. And they got immediate proof of concept and have since opened a permanent storefront right next door with the same landlord in a vacancy with a mix of grant support, community support, crowdfunding, and just hit the ground running. And every brand that has popped up in Lowell since has just been so supportive, so excited to do business in Lowell. So they're a great example of a community that has really shown up again and again. And in fact, we launched a second project pop-up space for a multi-year activation that has been around the corner, rotating additional brands. And we have some additional ones in the pipeline. So tremendous interest from a great experience in a pop-up into looking at long-term opportunities right in Lowell. And then there's one more example here from Wellesley, Massachusetts, which is a location that we launched with grant funding in winter of 2022. And this space was shared by 6 brands over the course of about a year, and multiple brands have gone on to open permanent storefronts. One, again, with the same landlord. This was a larger space. They downsized into a smaller space. This was a big vacancy for the landlord developer. And they were able to lease the space because typically we're doing even just cosmetic updates are uplifting a space that has been one use or vacant for a long time and filling it with these vibrant brands. And it markets it so much better to potential permanent users. So that can be part of the goal. It doesn't have to be that those specific pop-ups become the long-term tenant. It really is an opportunity to bring a space back to life and show all its potential. And so these brands did phenomenally well. We're able to lease a smaller space in the same building with the same landlord, develop that relationship and following and carry it forward. And then 2 of the brands decided to be closer to their home bases, but opened in neighboring communities. So it really can be a regional impact, and they continue to support and collaborate with one another across these multiple municipalities. And you can see some examples of the types of brands. To be more specific, we have a footwear and accessories line, Italian goods that are custom made and brought in, and that has a permanent storefront now. And they continue to share space with this artisanal chocolatier that makes these gorgeous gem-like chocolates and is a real destination and drive for people looking for that great gift. They're coming in specifically for the chocolates, but then discovering other brands while they're there and vice versa. Hedgehog Belly Designs is a children's boutique where this brand, this founder actually did Project Pop-Up in a couple of different locations and was trying out different markets for size, and found that for her as a founder, it really solidified her vision for the brand, where she went from having just her own clothing, which is all sustainably made in Massachusetts, to her own clothing plus a collection of other items, because she got real-time feedback from her growing customer base and incorporated that feedback into her product mix. And then Carla Shaw Sustainable Fashion, Jewelry and Clothing, since opened a storefront in Newton, permanent storefront, beautiful build out, small little space. That is exactly what she needs for her product. So that has been just another great story of how things can ebb, flow, evolve, but be proof of concept in so many different ways for so many different businesses. So pop-ups, are they a trend? No, they're a tactic. They are a tool in your toolbox to create downtowns where people want to be, where they want to spend time, where they want to be excited to engage and connect. And so when pop-ups first started, perhaps people were thinking of them as a Halloween store or a fleeting marketing trend, but they have really proven that they're here to stay and can be such a powerful retail incubation tactic, economic development tool, and so on and so forth. So we're excited to share this with you and empower and support all of you through the process of navigating pop-ups. And I'm going to stop talking now, and turn it over to questions and just open up the dialogue here. Just a quick reminder before we do that, this is the calendar of events where we'll be sending you workbooks and email templates and all kinds of tools that will help you to feel really supported and not like you're guessing. And we have office hour sessions interspersed with our education-based sessions so that we can really be each other's sounding boards, give you answers and spark new questions and sort of evolve the conversation for each of your municipalities along the way. And we'll be covering all different topics that are relevant sort of to the roadmap that you saw. So we will definitely get into more of the nitty gritty for each step along the way, in a way that is not necessarily overwhelming, but gives you enough information to go forth with confidence. So if you're comfortable coming on camera, please do. I would love to just open up the floor and get any feedback on, where your minds are. What are you thinking about right now? Is this sparking ideas for you? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Are you feeling intrigued? Feel free to just open up and share your thoughts, and we are here to chat about it all.
I'm happy to start. Yeah, I'm looking at this, from the municipal perspective. It's clear from your presentation that some kind of partnership is key. I'm just wondering from your examples, if you can speak to the nature of the partnership and the scale of financial commitment.
Sure.
I think we all struggle with this idea as a concept, but obviously any good idea needs to be resourced, and I want to level set expectations about what it would take to be successful.
Yes, that's a great question. And I want you to know that we will be getting into the nitty gritty of what the breakdown of a budget looks like, what type of resources might be needed to commit, how it varies by municipality because the cost of real estate is such a huge variable, and the nature of your vacancies, how flexible your landlord or development partners are in doing something on the range from in kind to full market rate or above. So just to give you sort of a high level snapshot, how this looks to engage with us as sort of a longer term consultant versus a partner versus doing it independently is a little bit different, right? So if you have the resources to move something forward where you're not factoring in a consulting fee or that type of overhead, you can defray your costs. And there's also a lot of different ways or levers to pull about like how much of a rent stipend there is, or based on how much funding is available, you can vary your timeline. But the first steps are, and Rachel, I might have you chime in on sort of the structure of the funding and comment on that. But I want to be clear that there are sort of the bite-sized. So for example, our full program in Melrose for a 6-week mobile activation is about $20,000 inclusive of our fees. So that's when you're working hand in hand with a consultancy. And that is a great example because they've been able to leverage a wide range of different funding resources to cover that. There are a lot of different programs available, grant sources that can be applied to something like this versus a multi-year and ARPA funded, which of course that ship has sailed at this point, but it can start there or potentially even lower because the cost of a physical mobile space is typically quite low and a great entry point. Rachel, do you want to hop in?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that 20,000 would include like even the cost of the rental and delivery of the unit. So that would be like all in. But that's probably the low end for about 6 weeks of an activation. And then like she said, it really depends. You know, we want to be direct about how much it would cost, but it really depends from municipality municipality. An example would be if like you're wanting to activate for 3 months and you'd need a $1,000 rent stipend, that's going to be a very different investment than 12 months and you're needing 3 or 4,000 in a rent stipend because that rent is, you know, $6,000 and you're trying to offset. So that's a large chunk of what that would cost. But 20,000 is usually that entry point.
Yeah, Ryan.
Thank you. I guess my question is, you know, Braintree does have some economic development grant funds that are very fluid, so we could do some.
Oh,
You just froze.
yep. Ryan, I think you're frozen on us. You can try shutting off your camera. Sometimes that saves on bandwidth.
We get involved in this process. How does that work? Like, if we decided to do it on our own, how do we get involved with you guys, and what exactly does that look like?
So you froze for a little bit, so I don't know how much of your question we missed, but assuming it's that if you have some funding, you feel like you could do most of this on your own, right? But needed some help, is that what you're asking?
I'm curious as to, since you guys are here, well, how your organization works with municipal, like, how do you start that? Do we just reach out to you and say, hey, we're looking to do this? And
Yes.
what does that look like from a partnership standpoint?
So typically, once funding is secured, because that usually is the first step, they'll say like, hey, we have this much, pretty much how far can we go with this is a lot of what that first conversation is. And we try to get as creative as possible to make that funding work for what their objective is. And then usually the first step is a proposal process where we try to kind of line out what the recommended budget and expenses would be for what they're wanting and knowing and trying to work within the budget they have. And in some cases, that means we might take a little bit of a smaller role because they have bandwidth to do a little bit more of it. So there might be a lighter consulting fee, or like we had one municipality where the rent was more or less for a few months zero. And so like then that will kind of offset. So I think you know, it really depends on what that budget is, but we put together a proposal and work with you on that. So the first step is usually when funding is secured, starting the conversation of also what is most interesting. Some people come knowing they want mobile, some people come already having an exact location in mind that they want to activate.
Yes. So just to chime in and let you know, this is the first time that we've done this cohort style accelerator program. So we're very excited to be able to introduce all of the different nuts and bolts of running a pop-up. And then you can, I suppose, choose your own adventure. If you feel that you have the resources and the team and the time to bring this to life on your own, we are hoping you will come out of this with the confidence and knowledge base to do that. If you have the time, don't have the time and resources, you want to engage our team, we are certainly happy to have that conversation at any point. But we don't want anyone to feel that they can't bring this to life with whatever resources are at their disposal. Pop-ups by nature are scrappy. The whole goal is to make it as low risk as possible and to invite partnership and, you know, innovation through retail. And so please don't feel that if you don't have ample budget to bring in us as consultants that you won't be able to do something creative in your community.
And in what what we'll be giving you along the way, there'll be things like email templates and even like in the next, not to jump ahead, but in the next session, we'll be talking about location scouting. And so you'll get these forms to be able to fill out so that you'll be able to evaluate if, there are a lot of things that make a location more likely to be successful for a pop-up. And sometimes knowing which location to pick even could be overwhelming. And we'll give you worksheets to help locate the best location in your area, or if you want to do mobile, making sure you've checked everything that's needed in order to really put a mobile unit in that location. So we'll be giving you those things that if you have that time, you'd be able to do on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're trying to break down the process as much as possible and give you those checklists. So it becomes, yes, it's a time and outreach and relationship driven process, but you will have everything you need to do that on your own should you choose to. What else is on people's minds? Are you already thinking of a particular location or area that you're looking to activate? Have you ever had a conversation with a landlord or a brand founder who is excited about doing something like this? No, we're starting from scratch here. Julia.
I don't think we have specific locations in mind. I think this is starting to spark the imagination where potentially we could locate mobile sites. So
That's
yeah,
great.
just starting the thought process of citing the location and all the logistics that go through with that.
For mobile, I would say, thanks so much, Art. We'll send you the recording. I would say for mobile, that is where you really have flexibility. We have done everything from a parking lot mobile village to a bank that is has a little parking lot parcel with some green, to the YMCA turf, to an empty parcel that's buildable land across from a sports field. It's really incredible how you can take mobile as a placemaking tool, put some picnic benches around it, a little play space, and it just becomes such a great addition to the community. And you can get very creative with the types of brands that can pop up there. Amy, I just saw you have the More Than Words bookmobile coming to a spring event. They're fantastic. They have a FlexiTel unit that was custom built for them, which is one of the partners we like to work with who does mobile activations, local company. And More Than Words, they have really nailed the retail experience. So that's, if anyone wants to take a little field trip to see it while they're popping up with you, I think it would be a great example of how you can take a tiny space. I mean, it is maybe 80 square feet and create an entire retail experience out of it. And especially if it's nicer weather and they can extend their footprint outside of that little space, they just really get it. And they are a mission-driven organization. And a lot of the brands that we're seeing apply for these types of opportunities, they're mission-driven too. Even if they're not a nonprofit, maybe they're focused on sustainability or women's empowerment. There's so many great companies that are building through pop-ups and retail and experiences these days. And so I feel like that's a perfect example, Amy.
Can I actually ask a follow-up question?
Yeah.
So when you have mobile workshops, is it typically how like you see it unfolding? The retailer brings their own I guess setup, or is that so is the funding going towards creating the structures that they'll use?
So what's really great about some of the mobile units that we partner with is that a lot of that infrastructure of like where they set up, what they can use to set up is already in the unit. So they don't necessarily have to bring, like if you're talking about like fixtures and things like that, typically those types of things, places to display shelves, are part of the unit already. So they're really usually bringing their merchandise. Sometimes they're bringing a fixture to like put outside of the unit so that it kind of continues on outside. But a lot of those fixtures are included in the cost of the rental of the unit.
Okay.
You're talking
Um,
specifically about workshops, like table space, chairs, that type of thing?
I'm thinking less of storefront and more of like a mobile structure.
Okay.
Because we don't have at this moment, we don't really have many vacant storefronts, luckily. So if we were planning to pursue or just like be interested in pursuing this right now, I think mobile would be our best bet. But again, like now thinking of like where we would site it, so those are some great ideas. But just like thinking of like the like their setups and how they will house their retail setup.
Okay, yes, absolutely. The retail infrastructure is included for the vast majority of it in a mobile setup, including the physical footprint for signage, thinking about the whole retail experience. That's what these units are designed for. Sometimes you're like Brian may have experience retrofitting a shed or taking something that's the initial use is not necessarily retail or commerce based. They can be retrofit. That can get expensive, but also a fun way to get creative. It can absolutely be done.
Allison and Rachel, what is the best way to contact you outside of here?
We can reach out to you, but I'm dropping our email in the chat. So that's our general inbox, and we can certainly connect via email and set up a call. Anything else that anyone would like to discuss specific to kind of the getting started process or uncertainty as you're going through this? We want to make sure that we are meeting all of your needs. We will be getting your feedback throughout this process, and I think we'll get a lot more into sort of the granular knowledge base. You're all, incredibly smart leaders who are used to navigating red tape working in government. So your minds probably go to the details much sooner than some of our partners. And we want to get deep into that with each of you and make sure that you have all the tools that you need. So I think this was designed to be sort of a high level snapshot of what the possibilities look like. And then beginning next time, we'll be talking about spaces, physically, budgeting, all of the things that are going to help drive the next step in the process.
Yeah, just to touch really quick. So next time we meet, we'll mainly be focusing on space scouting. I think a lot of times when we've talked to municipalities, that's actually an area where there's the most questions typically. And so we're going to try to give you as much of kind of a guide of what to look for as possible. And then we purposely made our first office hour after that session, because again, a lot of times we found that some of the most questions came after that space scouting conversation. So we'll be able to then on the 17th have an office hour where if you've started to look at spaces and have some questions, but even between two spaces, if you're that deep in, you could come to the office hour and ask us about that, or just after looking at the PDF we'll send you from these 2 weeks if you have additional questions. We'll have that. And that really is just an open time where even specifics about your municipality, we can talk through during that time. Just to give you a snapshot of what's to come, at least in this month.
Yeah, so this is all on the website where you registered, but just wanted to give you a reminder of what that schedule and detail looks like. I think within a few hours today, you will have the recording as well as the first part of that roadmap document. And it does have some interactive components, places you can put notes and start to brainstorm so that hopefully as you're going about your day and walking around downtown, you're starting to see new ideas and possibilities spark, and you'll have some more questions and excitement around the process for our next session. So I think we'll wrap now. Please email us if there's anything in particular you want to make sure we cover or you have questions about partnering. But thank you all for being here. Really looking forward to working with each of you closely.